All right. Good morning, everybody. Looks like we were having some technical difficulties with actual live. I think there's just a lot of activity with the entire nation going on the internet right now while we're all stuck at home. So I think it's just been a little bit spotty. So I'm doing this as a recording. I hope you saw the note to go ahead and type in any questions, and I'm going to look through those before I get off so that any questions that were typed in I can go ahead and get answered. So let's get started. I know I had already covered this in the portion that was live, but I'll show it one more time. There was a question on how do you change what file is associated with different extensions. There's a few things you can do. One is if you're just not seeing the extensions and that's your problem, then down when you go into Explorer, if you click on the View tab, right here you'll see it says File Name Extensions. If you click that, then you'll actually see that, DST, EXP, JPEG, whatever it is. You'll see all the extensions after the name of the files rather than just the names. Another thing is from Windows, if down on that little search bar that's down in the bottom corner of the screen, if you click on it and type in File Associations, then choose this thing, that will bring up a screen where you can choose what extension belongs to which program, and you can tell it, Jeff associate with this program, OFM associate with that one. All right, so that will change your associations. So I hope that helps there. Another question we had was, how do we make key fobs? It'd be nice to do with the word hero or something like that. Okay, so I did an example, and I'll open it in a minute, but I'll start it again here. So let's say we want to take the word hero. I just used the text tool and typed it. So from there, change it to a font that I like. It's whatever you like. I like this one. It's pretty. Okay. And from there, if you have other designs you want, you can add it. So let's say I want to draw a heart this time. Let's start it there. I don't know. Okay, so I drew a heart, and maybe I want that a little wider. All right, I'm just making a mess. I'm sorry. This point, we don't want that, so let's change that to, I'm going to change it to, let's do a type 2. Nope, didn't work. All right, so let's just move that. Yeah, whatever. All right, get better art. It'll turn out better rather than freehanding a mess that I'm doing here. Anyway, all right, whatever the art might be. Okay, so you draw something. I don't like that. Delete. There we go. Let's just do the word hero. All right, so from there, now I need to create a border around this. That's going to be my key fob. So the easiest way, or the way I like to do it, is to copy and paste this. So now I have two texts. I don't need two. I'm going to take that, go to Operations, and convert to vector. So now I can turn the text off, and you see I have a vector. From here, if you select everything, you can combine the elements. And then when you have the elements combined, you can now start deleting the holes and kind of merging this all into a large outline shape. I'm just going to do it by adding another one, because we did have a question as well on how to merge. How do you combine and subtract elements? So I'm just going to say, well, let's say we want to do it like this. Maybe put a curve here. It'll come up to that one, down maybe. Let's do another curve over there. And I'm just eyeballing this to smooth out the areas where I know I'm not going to want to cut into that shape. So let's say again here, maybe a curve. So remember, your curves are right clicks, your straight points are left clicks. So the triangles are my straight points, the curves are, the dots are my curves. All right, that's probably good. All right, hit enter to close it. So now I have two shapes overlapping. If I select this one and this one, I can merge them. All right, so now you see all I did was form a border for that thing. Okay, so what is that useful for? Well, now I can take that, and I just copied and pasted it so I have my original. I'm going to offset the outline, and let's say 40 points. Yeah, I kind of like that. All right, so from there, I'm going to make it white. So, oh, all right, that works too. There we go. All right, so now I've got a basic shape. So now we need to add the little thing over here that's going to go for the actual key fob. So to do that, you can draw a rectangle. Let's say those snaps are usually about 1/2 inch. So let's make, I guess it would help if I turn on my grid, huh? All right, these are 1/2 inches. So 1, 2, let's say maybe 2.5 inch tab. All right, so I'll draw a box. I'm using the vector, which if you hold down is this last one. And I'm just going to do it here so I have, I can count the grid, and then I'll move it down and center it where I want it. Okay, so I drew some lines, and I'm going to do that same trick again about combining objects. So I'm going to select that and that, combine. Now they're combined. If you want this to be a nice curve, I'll show you a trick. If you right click on it, it puts a dot. From there, if I hold my control key and drag it, it makes a nice curve. Okay, so that's just control and drag. All right, so now I've got the shape of a fob. So from there, I can take this and now create the actual sewing design. All right, so when you're creating these key fobs, it's basically you want to sew a line down of where you're going to have to put your material. So to do that, I'm going to hold my shift key. So select the shape, shift, click on the walk input. All right, so now I've got that. Now I'm going to copy and paste it, give it another color. So when I go to sew this, I'll do a placement, I'll hit an applique stop, machine will come out, I'll lay my vinyl down, a marine vinyl, I'd hit start, it'd pull it back in, it would sew this stuff, which sews it down. Then I'd want to sew my text, so I move the text down, just drag it down to where you want it, and then your very last step is I'm going to copy and paste that, and this time I'm going to change that to a bean stitch. That's way it's nice and secure, it's thicker, it looks nice. So do a bean stitch. Now I have it. It's all done. All right, so I did another one earlier in a few minutes before class. I just drew a little stethoscope and did the exact same thing. So I took all of these, took that one, drew another outline around my stethoscope, did an offset of 40 points to create this shape here. Nope, this shape here. And then I used that shape to create the actual key fob. So I did my, if I turn it all off and show you how it ends up getting built, there's my first stitch. Sew that straight onto stabilizer. My second stitch, now it's sewing the vinyl down. Third, it's going to do all the design work. And then the very last thing, you're going to stop it, put vinyl underneath, pin it in place so it doesn't scrinkle up, and then sew a bean stitch. And now you've got a key fob. All right. Hopefully that helps. There are several videos out on YouTube that I do that same thing, like with my name and stuff like that. So be sure to check those out, or you can always watch this. If I went too fast for you, let me know, and I can always go slower. All right. So I have multiple shapes overlapping. How do you remove overlapping stitches? Can't figure it out. All right. So to remove, so I showed you how to combine using this one. But let's use, I've got this and this, they overlap. So if I take those two, all right, let's say I want to subtract that hole from this. Well, those aren't stitches. I guess you want to see, well, it doesn't matter. It works both with stitches or without. Select the object you want to remove the stitches from, or the area from first. Hold your control key, select the second one. Then up here, instead of doing combine elements, I'm going to say subtract elements. Now you'll see I have the shape with the hole removed. All right, so that works for whatever you're doing. So let's say you had a, I don't know, a box. Give it a start, stop, and a stitch direction. And let's say now we have a circle. There. All right, so I've got two different shapes. I want to remove that overlap. So I select the first one, hold my control key, select the other, remove stitches. And now I've got a shape with that cutout. Okay. All right, let's see, what else did we have? How can I bring in a PNG clip art and convert it to a stitch? I did it once and have no clue how or what I did. Okay, so there are some, if you've never watched the videos on digitizing, the digitizing process, you should really do that. They are really great. They did a good job with them of showing how that works. Where you can find them, if you go to melcouniversity.com and click on media, right here, the videos are in order. These are also on YouTube. It's just really easy to get to here, which is why I'm showing, it's easy to remember. So down here under Digitizing Basics, you have art file types, and this will show you how to get the different art into the software. Okay, so it'll show you grabbing the art, inserting it, so that now you have something to draw to. And then these videos down here walk you through all the steps of digitizing a design. Okay, so you can then take your art and create the SO file to run it through. This goes through a pretty simple one. It's Earth Day. It's got a little mountain and things like that. And there's a bunch of different practice exercises you can do for all of these, okay, to get more familiar with the different digitizing tools. I highly recommend watching them. They're really great. So let's see. Can I make face masks with my EMT16? Yes. Is there a pattern or tutorial available? There's a whole lot of patterns out there. I did a really quick one. It's specific to the needs our hospital here has, and I did upload it for the Love of Melco Embroidery Machines group. I actually recorded a video, and Melco should be posting that sometime today. It's traveling through the interwebs very slowly at the moment. But as soon as we get it uploaded, we'll get it posted. You'll check on Melco's YouTube, and it should be there for you to play with. Like I said, it's a very basic pattern. I did it in 2 hoopings, one to create the pleats and the other just to sew all the pieces together. But you can also find different ones that have contours. There's completely in the hoop ones that don't require top stitching. There's all kinds out there. I gave one example that we posted the designs for you. I wanted to make a tackle twill into a decorative stitch. I'm wanting to use it on quilt piecing on a straight line, not an applique shape. If someone can show me how to do this. All right. I'm not quite sure what you're doing there, but here, I'll show you how to make a decorative. And I know we've covered that in a bunch of videos as well, so be sure to look through them. But let's see, creating a decorative stitch. I can go, first you create your design. So let's say you said you want it to be an L. I don't know what size you want. All right. You've got to create a decorative, you need the start and stop to be on the same line. So let's say I'm going to start there, make it a 1/2 inch tall. I don't know what you want. And say you want that. Okay. So my start and stops are not on the same lines that they're supposed to be on, so I'm going to go fix that. See that? They're not. There, close enough. All right, so from there, you can take that, go to Save Custom Shape. I always save it as test. You've seen me do this in different videos, so I am not always creating junk. So if I want to change something, I can. Call it a decorative. Do I want to replace it? Because I use this all the time, yes. All right, so from there, I can then go walk, decorative, change it to my test one, and draw my shape. And then I have my ugly L. All right, and you can do that in any shape you want, so it'll wrap it around there for you. Is that what you were looking for? Another way, I think there's, let's see, what you were really asking about was not the decoratives, but the, let's see, yeah, that's it. Okay. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so let me know if that answers your question. If not, we can find something else for you. What other questions did I have? So the next one was DesignShop V11. What is going to be new? I don't know. I don't have access to it. If I did, I wouldn't be able to say anything anyway, but I really don't know what's going to be in there. I'm as interested in it as you are, just because I love digitizing, so I want to know what's going to be new and exciting, but I don't have insight into that. I'm sorry. All right. I also need to know about converting a batch of files from one type, PES to DST. I was able to get one batch file converted, but the next batch shut my DS down every time. The only time I've noticed that happening with me is one of the files was actually corrupt. And when I had a corrupt file, it would end up crashing everything. So the way I always did it was I did smaller groupings of the conversion. So rather than doing an entire folder of several hundred files, I would do 10 files at a time or something like that, just to avoid it. I don't know otherwise. If you do have a specific example, send it to application so we can take a look at it. Okay. Okay, I did that one. Oh, so that was all the questions. So let's see what was typed in. Let's see, how do you convert clipart? Well, I guess I can show that. So auto conversions, sometimes I don't use them for digitizing final products personally. Let me go find some art. So let's do that before I keep running my mouth. Designs, graphics, art. You have art. I don't like that. Let's do the butterfly. There. Okay, so I have art. So you can take whatever the art is, select it, and go to this guy right here. Instead of convert to vector, convert to embroidery and say okay. It'll think about it for a little bit and it will convert it to embroidery. Sometimes it works out great, sometimes it needs some work. I like using this personally to get an estimated stitch count for the design, and then I'll digitize it by hand so I can control the stitches. I don't have these splices randomly through there and things like that. If you do a conversion like this, you can always clean it up. So let's say, just this part isn't bad, we don't mind it, but the stitch directions, like for the antenna, okay, that's not quite cool. So you can always select the shape and then start editing it by let's say I want to insert a splice there, go from one side to the other, another there, and then maybe I want to change the stitch direction by adding stitch directions across these spots. But when it breaks, you've got to delete the conflicting stitch directions so that it will, because they were arguing with each other, so it didn't know what to do. So you can see you can go through and play it. All right, and those antennas are a little better. It's a little bit thin, so I would want to come over here and modify it, so on. So you can always use it as a starting point for digitizing and then play cleanup. So you can always do that. I just tend to digitize it from scratch rather than using this, and just use this as a rough estimate for what my total stitch count will be. Okay, so what other questions were typed in? Let's see if there's any others. Back to downloading other digitized files. Is one extension better than another so I can alter them in DesignShop? I can convert to wireframe, and others I can't seem to alter. So when you have an expanded stitch type, so for instance, this is an expanded stitch types. Expanded stitch types would be anything that's not natively created within DesignShop, essentially. So your DSTs, your EXPs, Jeff, Huss, the SO files, any of those. All they are is a bunch. You can actually look at what they are over here. This is kind of too much info, but you'll see it's a bunch of coordinates, jump commands, change colors, trims, those sorts of things. It's literally every coordinate of where these stitches are going to be placed. Okay, so when you're wanting to edit this, editing expanded files, when you see them over here as expanded, is not the most fun activity. I'll say I've done it before, but it's not what I'd consider a fun time, because what you would do is select it, come over here, toggle to expanded points. Now you can see each needle penetration, and I can select on one of those by choosing this expanded editing mode, select one stitch, and now I can move that stitch around. Now, should I do that? Probably not. That's probably not what I want to do. But you do have that capability where you can take any of these stitches and move them around, delete them, add. So if I add a stitch, I just clicked and now I added a stitch. So you can tell it's not expanded stitch editing, while you can do it, is not the most efficient editing technique there is. You can also take that same shape, right click on it, go to operations, convert object to wireframe. Once you do that, now it'll be in a wireframe format. So there, now when you modify the wireframe, notice the stitches go with it, right? It'll recalculate all the stitches to fill the new wireframe. All right, so you can use that to, adjust the design. All right. Now, when you do wireframe conversions, sometimes you're just double check everything, because you'll end up with sometimes the densities will be too high. So instead of getting a nice smooth satin stitch, you'll have gaps between the stitching because it set the density to 5 rather than 3.7 to 4, somewhere in there. So you'll just want to double check your design when you do it. But once you have the wireframes and they are how you like, it's really easy to modify everything, right? You can take your shapes, scale them, adjust them, all of that. All right. But if you want something that's natively editable within DesignShop, you wouldn't want an expanded stitch type. You would want to get a native OFM, because those have everything already in wireframe format. They're math-based. They have a wireframe associated with them, densities, properties, underlays, and then you can modify the underlays easily, as as simple as doing that, adding an underlay to that object. Now it has an underlay, where before it didn't. Okay, if you want to change the density, all you have to do is change that, and it recalculates all the stitches so that now you have a different density there. If you're unfamiliar with the different properties, I'll show you where to find that. Under here, object properties, these videos really talk about, so I just realized I'm talking density and pull comp and things like that, and underlay. If you don't know what density is or what underlay is, watch these set of videos. I would start at the top, accessing object properties, and going all the way down to tie stitches. This kind of helps you understand what all those are. So like when you're thinking about, if you're looking at a design you sew out and you happen to notice that the stitches are too far apart, you're seeing too much of the fabric underneath, what do you change? Well, that's a density issue, right? By making the density lower, so instead of making it 5, making it 4, the stitches move closer together and you get more stitches, more coverage of the area. If on the other hand, you're sewing something and you're hammering it to death and you're going, man, there's just too many stitches in that area, you need to spread them out more, well, that's when you'd increase your density. So kind of understanding what these properties are do help a lot to being able to tweak designs to suit your needs. All right, any other questions that were typed in? I don't see any. So I'm sorry we had some issues with the live stream today. I will try to check back a little bit later, and if we need to do a follow-up after you guys look at this, if there are any other questions that we should follow up with, please let us know and we will get them answered. But other than that, enjoy some time to learn some digitizing skills, work with your machines. We are going to be uploading the little video I did here of the masks. I had some unwilling friends help me so I could record and talk. So you get to see their hands. They did not want to be on camera. Anyway, I hope this is helpful for you. Remember to send your questions over to applications@melco.com. Type them in on the comments and we will get them answered for you. All right, thanks. I will talk to you next time.